Okay, well, we're preparing to put a FIT-M03 on this gorgeous 2014 Roush Mustang. And one of the first things we do is we get the car up in the air. To make the car think that it's on its suspension, we lift it up on our lift, but then support the center with a floor jack, and then raise up the rear end until the arms on the lift don't have any more, they're not supporting the car, and there the rear end is loaded. We do the same thing with the control arms on the front. So one of the first things that we need to do is hold the rear axle in place, because to install the FIT system you need to undo the front lower control arm bolt and remove it, and to keep the rear end from shifting back, making it difficult to put the bolt back in, we simply just run a strap along the bottom of the car and tie it off on the K member, and it doesn't have to have a whole lot of force on it, just enough to take the pressure off of the bolt so that we can pull the bolt out. So we'll start off by removing the lower control arm bolt, then come along and we need to take out the bolt that holds on the E-bracket cable. And once that's done, then we'll be able to hold the FIT system up in place and mark along the body where it needs to be welded, so we can prepare for that. Okay, now that we have both the bolts out, we're going to put the FIT system up in place and come along and simply take and install this bolt just like that to temporarily hold the FIT system up in place. And then we take a jack and raise it up so now the FIT system is being held up against the rocker panel. And up against the front and the rear sub. So at this point we're going to take and mark it where it needs to be welded. And as all Stifflers products that need to be welded prior to powder coating, you can see where we mask them. So when you pull the product out of the box, you take the masking off, and that shows you where you need to mark the car for it to be welded. And then we have one at the very top up here, which is tough to see. That one's marked up there at the top of the torque box. And then we come along here and mark along the bottom of the rocker where the bare spots are. There's no guessing in where you need to weld and how much, because we've already figured that out in the development of the part. You can see that. And then we're completed now with the ratchet strap, so we can get this out of the way and be ready to go ahead and mark the locations on the subframe where the FIT system bridges over, to triangulate that and make that extremely stiff and strong. So at this point, we'll drop down the FIT system and go back up with the grinder and grind the areas where we just marked it for welding, because you want to have good bare metal on the body side where the weldment is going to be for proper penetration. Now we're going to put the rear control arm bolt and spacer in. So this little cubby that's up in here works out great. Put the bolt back in there, put it through the FIT system, and then put your spacer in. That spacer you definitely need to make up the difference in how the body, the factory torque arm, or excuse me, the factory torque box is configured there. You need to make up that extra space. Put your bolt through. And your nut and washer. And now that's ready to be torqued as soon as all the welding is done. Okay, so we've come through and we have the rear control arm bolt snugged up in place and the FIT system supported against the bottom of the car. And you can see we're maintaining close to the same gap all the way down the rocker. And now she's ready to throw some beads on. All right, we got a little video of some welding going on here. How's that? Nice and pretty. Okay, so after all the welding's done, we come back with a little wire brush and brush the actual weld to clean it, and then hit it with a little black paint because you don't want to leave your welds exposed. You need to have a little paint on them. And what we use for that is this Rust-Oleum. We can see it here. There we go. It's Rust-Oleum textured black, and it just so happens to blend real nicely with our powder coat. Now we're going to come back and finish putting the brackets together. So as you can tell, in our FIT system we duplicated the same receiving slot as the e-brake bracket, so we'll go ahead and attach it up in place. Reuse your existing OEM hardware. There we go. We'll do that for both sides and tighten them up. Then we'll go back, and you want to do a finish torque on your control arm bolts at 129 foot-pounds. And that's real important. Make sure you got yourself a good torque wrench to tighten those up correctly. Okay, so the last is to put up this this plastic panel that is up underneath the car that covers up the brake and the fuel lines. And in our install instructions, we actually supply a template that you trim out, cut out the paper, lay it on here, and then it shows you where to notch this panel to clear the FIT system. And then in the back, you cut off a section of it to allow clearance as well. And this is usually always the toughest part of the whole install, because you have to tuck this lip up between the body and the K member right here. So let's see if we can get this done. Okay, and for one of the finishing touches, we supply plastic plugs that get pushed into the end of the FIT system to keep the water out. So you just put that up there and tap it in with your hammer. Maybe use a little block of wood between the plastic and your hammer to help keep from tearing the plug up. Okay, so we'll give you a quick rundown of the whole install. As you can see, we came in and positioned it into place, marked where it needed to be welded. For example, this location right here, we ground off the paint from the body so we'd have good penetrating welds. Welded it. It integrates into the torque box back here, which obviously helps strengthen the rear torque box, so that gives your lower rear control arm a little bit better control. And then after the welding, went back, hit it with some paint because you don't want to have bare welds. Installed our plastic plugs in each end of the FIT system to keep the water out, and we modified the plastic OEM plastic panel that covers up the fuel and brake lines, notched it just as our install instructions show to clear the FIT system, and now she's ready for the road.